Hello. Big news about the Orlando Magic schedule for the 25-26 season. The NBA announced the European games for the next 3 years, and the Orlando Magic are one of the two teams playing in it this year. They're going to be playing two games over in two different European cities in January 2026. We'll go over which cities and the dates, as well as a check on a story that just won't go away: the possible reunion with Vooch. That's right, we're talking Magic in Europe and a buyout of Vooch. This is the Orlando Magic Nation, your source for all things Orlando Magic on YouTube. For Orlando Magic fans, by an Orlando Magic fan. So I want to thank you very much for clicking on this video and spending a little bit of time talking Magic with me. Click subscribe so you can be part of the Orlando Magic Nation, as well as not miss any of the content that I put out. And since you're clicking around, click the like button because it really helps the channel reach more people. So don't forget to smash that like button. And also, this doesn't have to be a one-way street. So feel free to add any comments in the comment area below if you are going to plan on making a trip out to Europe to see one of these games, or if you have any memories about a trip in Europe or anything like that, feel free to put it down in the comments again. So don't forget, subscribe, like, comment. Those are the three things you got to do. All right. So first things first, the first city that the Magic are going to be going to, if you're a Euro trip fan. That's right. We're going to be going to Berlin. So obviously we have three German nationals on our team with Tristan, Franz, and Mo Wagner. So it just makes sense. So this will be the first game, a first regular season game in Berlin in NBA history. So that's going to be obviously something monumental for the guys. For them, it's very special. They put out on their socials today how excited they are to be going to play in Germany. The Franz and Mo are from Berlin proper, or at least that's what it says online, that's where they were born. So for them, it's going to be really special from everything they've said. Tristan's born in Munich, but obviously being in Germany, it's going to just be that extra special of a game. So the first game, it's going to be January 15th. That's going to be their first game over there. And again, they're playing in two different games. And the second game is going to be, again, for all my fans out there. One second.
London, baby.
Okay, because that's not going to get annoying.
London, baby. London, baby.
That's the stuff.
Oh, what the hell is that?
That's London, baby.
So yeah, we're going to be the second game in their European trip is going to be London, baby. So we're going to be playing in London January 18th, 2026. Both these games are going to be against the Memphis Grizzlies. So unfortunately for Desmond Bane, he's not going to be playing in Memphis at all this season. So the reunion, when they're going to give him all the love for the years that he spent there, that's going to have to wait till the next season after that, because we are going to be playing both our games against the Western Conference Memphis Grizzlies over in Europe. So that's going to be the second game. So first game Berlin, January 15th. Second game London, January 18th. Now, to give a bit of context or a bit of backstory on some of the international games the Magic have played, this will be the fourth and fifth, I believe, regular season games that are going to be played abroad like this. So anyway, if we're talking about London specifically, the very first games in London that featured an NBA team was with the Orlando Magic. Obviously, at the height of Shaq's popularity, we were definitely going to be putting the team around the different parts of the world. So they played in London in '93, way back in '93. We played two exhibition games in the preseason against the Atlanta Hawks, where we won one, lost one. Shaq's did Shaq things, and then Dominique was still playing at a high level at that point, as well as Kevin Willis. So that was that. We have played a game of a regular season game in London that was in January of 2016 against the Raptors, where we lost by 3. Oladipo was scored 27 points, and Kyle Lowry, who's still around, was the leading scorer for the Toronto team with 24 points. So looking back at that schedule, leaving from the US to go there and then coming back, there was 3 games, 4 days 4 games prior to that game. So there was a game, I believe, on the 8th. So they had about a few days of downtime before they had to play the Raptors. There was just the one game, and then 3 days of rest, and then they were playing against Atlanta in Atlanta. So they had 4 games off prior to the game, 3 days off after the game. So we'll see now, and that was just for one game. Now that we're going to be going for 2 separate games or 2 games, we'll see how much time the Magic are going to get before and after the trip, especially because, as we saw, there's a few days in between the 2 games. It's not like a back to back that we just play in Berlin on the 15th and then in London on the 16th. There's a couple days in between. So we're going to see what the schedule makers end up with for us, because we might be that team. I think Indiana actually was the team this year that was always several games behind some of the opponents. So the Magic were always ahead in games, in a lot of the opponents. So maybe this year we play a lot up front, and then we have a kind of a mini break here because we're the ones going to Europe, and then after that, then we start to play catch up and we have more days off. So we'll see. Obviously, we're planning on being a contender this year. We're planning on being one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference. So little things like this actually do matter when it comes to rest and recovery and being able to play at our best. So we'll see. Just to give a little more context on some of the other games before, because we have played other regular season games, not in Mexico. Mexico is right here, so it's almost like we're playing games in Canada. Not to say that there isn't challenges in Mexico, especially in Mexico City with the elevation. So there definitely are some challenges there. But we did play 2 regular season games in Tokyo at the beginning of the 96-97 season against the Nets. But you see there, they were back to back. So we actually started the season playing against the Bullets back in the days. The Washington Wizards were called the Bullets for all the kids out there, and then went over to Tokyo. In that case, basically, we had 5 days off before and after the trip. So in that case, that was how they dealt with that. But obviously, the time difference for Tokyo is way more than it is for Europe. Europe, it is still 6 hours, but for Tokyo, it's a whole another day. So I think that's what the schedule makers gave the Magic that time: 5 prior and 5 after, smushed with those 2 games. So we'll see. The rest of the games, as you see, are mostly are preseason games in near China, either in China or in the properties that are affiliated with China. Then Mexico City during preseason, down in Brazil back in 2015, where we played against one of the Brazilian teams. And then, as you know, we have several regular season games in Mexico City. So we played 2 games in 2018, and then we played the Hawks in 2023. So regular season games abroad, we've played 6 before, actually. It's all coming to me now. So we played 6 before, and we're 4-2 at this point. So I think in that respect, let's hope we continue to have success when it comes to the regular season games abroad, and we are able to sweep this series against the formidable team from Memphis that's been doing a good job of adding on the sides with bringing in Ty Jerome, and they're going to re-up JJJ and all the other stuff. So these aren't going to be easy games, plus the amount of travel. Again, we'll see how much we get prior to the game, and then also what the travel is going to be like on the way back. So we shall see on that. But all in all, just to recap, also, as I mentioned in a few videos prior, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. This feels as part of the Magic's maturation in the world scene, in that they're putting the Magic out there. Obviously, going to Berlin just makes sense with where us having really the few German nationals in the NBA. So that part just makes sense. I understand. but them expanding into Europe since they're looking to create that new league over in Europe, this just makes sense. Berlin is a big city over in Europe. If you've never been, it's beautiful. The arena that they're going to is state of the art. It's a really cool arena that I've been to myself. Very, very cool. So not only are they going to be the ones to kind of open the market in general, this is setting the stage for possible expansion, not possible, the expansion that NBA is looking to have in Europe. So it's nice. And again, the star power on this team, if Paolo is an MVP candidate at this point, if Franz already is already at the All Star level, which he was last year. So if it wasn't for the injury, he would have likely been an All Star. So if we have this star power already, it's already going to be a hoopla of a game just because of the guys being from Germany, but it's still going to end up being a bigger thing. And if you look here in Tokyo, I suspect they thought that Shaq was still going to be on the team. This is the year after Shaq left for the Lakers. So when the organizers were organizing the Tokyo trip, I assumed that they were expecting that Shaq was going to be there. So at the time when Shaq was here, again, it was cool for the Magic were cool. Everything about the Magic were cool in the '90s like that. So again, kids, if you didn't know, that's what it was. The Magic were really, really a cool team to follow. So now with Paolo, with Franz, with Jalen, with Desmond Bain, with all these guys that are now starting to really ramp up, I think the Magic are cool again. And this to me is something that is showing that the league wants to put the Magic out there a little bit more to help in the expansion of reach of the NBA. And the Magic can be the team that is the favorite of the UK or the favorite team of Germany or anything like that. So that I think is the positive as well. The negative is the travel, and again, we need to win all the games, so we'll see how this affects the team. But again, overall, I think it's a good thing. We'll see how it affects our standings in the East. Lastly, Vooch. There was some reporting today from Mark Stein and as well as in the Orlando Magic Daily talking about the buyout possibilities of Vooch. If you've seen a couple videos I've already produced about this, we're not going to trade for him, right? That's going to be the one thing, and that's what Chicago's looking for. Chicago's looking for a trade. Obviously, even if it's for a few seconds, at this point they want something of value instead of just letting him walk for nothing. The Magic are not going to be willing to, at least I don't suspect they're going to be willing to part with any more draft capital for Vooch. So we're going to be hoping for him to come out as a buyout. Now, again, because we're an apron team right now, or since we're over the luxury tax, we can't, we could not sign him even if we wanted to, unless we got under the tax. So the numbers all here show. Again, if you're new, this is the first time you're seeing it. The first column is our current cap situation, cap and apron situation. So right now we're way over the cap. We're over $5.5 million over the tax, and we're 1.2 million under the apron. So we're hard locked or hard capped at the first apron. So we cannot go, no matter what exemptions there are, no matter what, we can't go over $195.9 million. Now, I always kept saying, oh, if we get rid of Jet, then at least we'll be under the salary, or excuse me, under the luxury tax. Turns out, if the numbers that are on Spot Track are accurate, and if the numbers is that the MBAs are going to be using, we can't do that. Actually, we're going to need to get rid of someone with a little bit higher salary because Jet doesn't do it. We're still over the salary or the luxury tax by $45,000, unfortunately. So obviously we can include Jet in a deal or in yeah in a deal, or we're not going to waive him obviously, or we're not going to stretch or anything like that. So we're going to have to give up a salary that's higher, and the next person above Jet basically is Tyus. So unless we're going to get rid of Tyus, he's at $7 million, then again that will at least get us underneath the tax. But then when it comes to paying Vooch, that's gonna eat into that other stuff. But let's just say for example, we're going to go with Goga's salary. Goga is $8.333 million this year. So if we take Goga out, so you see we have the $2.7 million under the luxury tax, which again puts us at 9.5 million under the apron. At that point, we're not really worried about the apron so much. Really, we're more worried about the luxury tax for a couple reasons. We're worried about the luxury tax because we don't want to start paying luxury tax, because after a few years, then you start accruing what's called the repeater tax. So then every dollar over the luxury tax eventually will start to be, instead of 1 to 1, it'll be 3 to 1, and there'll be 5 to 1, and there'll be all that other. So that's, if you've been hearing about why the Celtics needed to get under the tax, that's why. It's because every dollar there are over the luxury tax ends up being like $7 or something crazy like that. So that's the reason why we want to be under the tax. We also want to be under the tax so that we can pay for any of the buyout guys that might come loose by at the end of the trade deadline if they're not traded. So in this situation, again, go if we were to trade just Goga, just Goga, we are at again under the luxury tax by 2.7 million. Then for Vooch, if we were to sign Vooch to a veteran minimum, which is $3.4 million for the amount of years of service he has. We don't have to pay all $3.4 million. We end up paying a prorated amount. There's a calculation on there that, if you really want to know, put it in the comments and I'll write it out for you. But just know that for the amount of time, even though we don't know the schedule yet for the year, I'm estimating it's about 70 days left from the end of the trade deadline to the end of the year. So I'm estimating at 1.3 million is what we would have to pay Vooch for the rest of the year if we were to bring him in as a veteran minimum for the rest of the 2025-2026 season. And in the example there in that last column, you see that including his salary, we're still 1.3 million under the tax and well clear of the apron. And again, we really should be, as an organization, trying to get under the tax. We're already going to have apron implications moving forward just because of how expensive the team is going to be. So we want to try and keep as many arrows in the quiver as possible, and getting under the tax is important for this year. Where there's no way we're going to be under the tax moving forward for the next couple of years. So while we have this window, we want to try to be under the luxury tax as much as possible. So in this situation, financially, this is how financially we can do it. Now, for basketball reasons, should we do it? Like, really, at this point, it really is a buyer beware situation. Obviously, our offense, he would be a kickstart to the offense. I don't know if I would start him necessarily, because again, then our defense would really suffer. I'd like to start Goga. I'd rather start Goga than Wendell. But even if it's Wendell's switchable. He's still able to also extend. Maybe Wendell's three comes back. He's able to start shooting threes again. And then at that point, then it's kind of a wash a bit with Vooch and Wendell. Because realistically, Vooch is used to having the ball. He's used to being the number one option, or at least at worst, the number two option on offense. So now he would be number four, number three on offense. So that would be something that I don't know we would get the best bang for our buck. Now, it is only a veteran minimum, so in that respect, I guess we are getting the best bang for our buck, because even if he averages 10 points a game in the playoffs or something like that, then at least it's a known 10. So if he came off the bench, because we're definitely going to need bench scoring, if Tyus is going to be the one coming off the bench, we definitely need bench scoring. But can you have Mo and Vooch coming off the bench? Like, that's where we're talking. It's a good problem to have, and it never hurts to have an extra person or another known entity so that we have flexibility. So maybe in one round he won't really play much because he's not needed necessarily, but maybe in another round it might work. It might help us. So if we're playing the Knicks, maybe he wouldn't be able to play because they're going to switch him out to Brunson, and Brunson's going to go past him all the time. But maybe we play an Indiana team that Indiana they won't have the Tyrese Halliburton for the year, so Are you really worried about Neesmith constantly blowing past or whatever? Like, it is a worry, it is a concern, but in that respect, maybe it won't be as big of a concern. So I think that's where we have to go from here. But for veteran minimum for the rest of the year, since we're contending and we're trying to win, I don't see it being that big a deal. Now, for me, I wouldn't mind it if we were going to do a scenario like this. I wouldn't mind a Goga and Jet deal and bringing back a piece so that it's not us just getting rid of Goga. The only situation there is then we'd have to figure out how many guys are on the roster, and we have to have at least 14 for the roster. So maybe then we just sign Jamal or Orlando to a standard deal, and that gets us up to 14. Either way, that's a lot of the finagling we need. But the more amount under the salary under the tax we are, it would be better because then we can play around with all this other stuff, bringing guys in, doing trades and all of that. So right now it's quiet. We'll see if there's going to be any deals. There's still a lot of deals out there. If you're online checking, people are still talking about Malik Monk. People are still talking about Anthony Simons. People are still talking about all these different deals with the Lakers for Goga and Jonathan Isaacs theoretically. So who knows? It's quiet. Maybe knowing the way the Magic did the first trade, it being so early and right on Father's Day, maybe. Well, we can't do July 4th, so maybe Labor Day, we end up doing a trade just so that all the writers who are on vacation will have to do little Skype calls or have to do different calls into the into ESPN and to all their different outlets. We'll see. I don't know. Again, for me, it wouldn't hurt on a buyout situation. I wouldn't trade for him. I like our team now. It's just an extra quiver in the basket. Like I would rather keep the team the way it is right now, keep the way it is, see how it starts off, see how it gels. Let's play all the way to the trade deadline. Then if we need to add on the trade deadline, we have a couple tradable pieces left. We don't have that much draft capital left yet or left over, but we do have still a couple enough players that are valuable to other teams. So I think we could still make a deal in the trade deadline, and then hopefully we could be a buyer in the buyout market because we're a contender, and we might have a hole or two to fill depending on what trades or whatever. But again, the Magic are going to be good. Everything on paper looks good now. So if we do nothing, totally okay with it. If we bring in a Malik Monk, if we bring in a Vooch on a buyout, again, it gives us more bites at the apple. It allows us to have the flexibility to be able to match up with all the different variables that the playoff basketball has, and it also doesn't hurt to be a pretty deep team. So if we can go 10 deep for sure, again, we don't need all 10 to play at all times, but in certain matchups, we might need people to play in different roles. So to me, that's the end of the Vucevic. I won't talk about it again until the trade deadline or anything like that, or unless we end up trading for him for some reason. So that's the last time I'm talking about that trade. So I just want to thank you again for watching. I really appreciate you spending some time chit chatting. Again, I'm going to be here. I'm always going to produce some content here and there. I'm still working on different projects for the channel so that we can continue to learn about the Magic, continue to talk about the Magic, get excited for the upcoming year. But if there's anything, again, you have any comments, please throw it down in the comment area, and don't forget to hit like. So again, subscribe, like, comment. Those are the three things that I'd like for you to do, just so that we can continue to grow this channel and I can continue to have the resources to be able to provide as much content as possible for you guys moving forward. So that's all for tonight. So I hope you have a great day.